Good morning. Today I want to talk about how much salt you put in the meat or in the sausage. In general, if you make any fresh sausage, even boiled sausage, that's like liver sausage, blood sausages, or in that direction, in general you take 10 grams salt to a pound, that means 500 gram, or 20 gram per kilogram. And if you make a dry sausage you want to keep for a long time, you go between 13 and 15 gram per pound or 26 to 30 gram per kilogram. My subject today is curing meat. You can go fast cure or slow cure. I start with a fast cure. Fast cure means you make a brine and inject brine into the meat. Normally that's done when you want to cook it or smoke it the next day. We never put brine in when we want to keep the meat longer. When you make a brine, the content of the salt is not figured by how much meat you have, only by how much water you have. You can have, for example, a 1 pound meat and have 10 gallons of water. As long as the content of the salt in the water or in the brine is the same, the meat never gets too salty. Long time ago when I worked as a butcher, in the beginning we put always 12% salt in the brine to make anything. Boiled ham or Kassler smoked loins or anything like it. Except the last few years, I heard complaints that always too salty, so I went down with the amount of salt. I went to 9%, and I still do that today. That means for any meat that I want to cook or smoke and cook later on, or want to boil next day, we always use 9% salt in it. The exception is now if you don't boil it in water, if you put it on a grill or on a rotisserie or whatever, then I go to 6%. Otherwise it is too salty. But if you have 6%, you leave it 2 or 3 days in, it becomes too salty too. Now we come to the slow cure. There we have actually 2 different kinds. One you put just in salt and one you put in brine. The difference is, if you put it in salt, the salt will soak more moisture out of the meat. The meat will be a little drier. If you put it in brine, the meat actually stays more softer. And if you do it in brine, I tested it once but I forgot how much the meat actually gained while you have it in the brine. In the beginning of my butcher time in Germany, we dry cured all the hams. They were salted the first week, and then when the next week we put the new stuff in, the old stuff got resalted and packed, one in a different area, and the fresh one came in the other side. Later on, we did wet cure with 12%. And the raw ham, the whole ham always got dry cured or cured in natural brine. Natural brine means in the brine that's been soaked or pulled out of the meat. The natural brine always was a full brine. Full brine means the liquid cannot pick up any more salt. Moisture can pick only 25% salt up. And then after that, the salt will settle on the bottom. And that natural brine became a year or 2 old before we changed it. But the Schinkenspeck, we call it, they were small pieces ham. That is basically the sirloin from a pig, was basically Schinkenspeck. That we brined later on also in brine for 2 weeks. And then once it came out, it became 12 hours in water, and then it got smoked. And to be honest, it always was a little too salty for me. But that's what we did then. And in Hanover, and where I worked last, there we also went down to 9%, so it's not too salty. And we still do it today. Here in America, I don't make any whole ham anymore. I used to make chicken speck the pieces. Like if I make a whole ham, I make chicken speck out of it. I cut it flat. You find it in one of my movies, what it means. And I salted it for 2 weeks in 9% salt and 9% brine. And I turn it once in a while in the fridge. But then I take it out and leave it 1 hour, only 1 hour, in fresh water. The idea is the salt in the meat is perfect, except on the outside it's a little more salty. All I want to take a little of the salt out of the outside. I don't make any more bacon. I make only smoked jowls. But with bacon I would do the same thing. I would take only 6% salt in the brine. For a simple reason, if you go 9% and you fry it, it's always too salty. You go to 6% and it's not too salty. And jowls, or if I would make bacon, it stays only 1 week in salt, in brine, and then 1 hour in water. Same thing like the ham. Now I want to come to back fat. Back fat, we always salt it only in regular salt, table salt, and left it in for a week, for 2 weeks, whenever we needed it. But we could leave it in for 5 months and never get too salty. Whenever you need it, take it out, lay it a little while in water and smoke it. In Germany, during the summer months, the fat was not sold so much. Then we stored sometimes up to 500 pounds. Stored in salt. We had no freezers at that time. I'm coming now to the end. I don't know if I forgot something, but maybe watch my other movies, learn some more. You find me on YouTube under Eckhart, the German Butcher.